April Morris, Human Growth and Development and Teen Parenting at Black.
Alberta Holly at Franklin, 2nd, 4th edition.
Ross Brooks, Howard Kennedy, Principal.
Maura Sanchez-Oran, Friday Wing.
Chris Bivens, counselor at Columbian Elementary.
Fitting that you guys are doing a South Omaha immersion because that's where I'm from. I was born in South Omaha, was raised in South Omaha. I went to school in South Omaha, and actually I currently own a home not too far from here, so this is where I'm from. Right before I started painting this, I walked around the Cinco de Mayo parade down in South Omaha on 24th Street to kind of get inspired, you know, just be immersed in that culture and just be part of it. And that really kind of helped to inspire me because
our project was called an exquisite collaboration, and we gathered together the middle school students. So.
It started with Exquisite Corpse, and Exquisite Corpse was a game that surrealists would play that actually Joe was talking about. He talked about Salvador Dali, and then the next piece, there's a little Salvador Dali piece. But they would start with this game where somebody would draw the half, they would pass it, somebody would draw the middle, and then somebody would lastly draw the last piece to get a spontaneous image. And with surrealism, as you can see, you have to be careful what images you show because some of them are not appropriate.
At our school, I set it up more just exactly like the Exquisite book because our focus that particular year at Beveridge was writing about what your artwork was. So here you can see that the students evolved their own projects, and again, they're disjointed, they're individual, but yet they are connected with the Exquisite line. 4 years later, this is what.
Right.
This was half
This is
of our project.
Yeah, one side of the gallery.
One side of the gallery. We still had another side that was all filled with paintings, and rather than 30 students being involved, it was 250 students, and then it was also every middle school and magnet school in OPS.
So, and this is the first year that we were able to get all OPS.
Languages in our school district. We have 114 different languages spoken in the Omaha Public Schools. Can you repeat that number? How many? 114 different languages. Now, when I first came to the district, we had 92% of our students in the ESL program spoke Spanish. Now, it's 79%. It's still the majority of our ESL students come from Spanish-speaking homes, but we have a lot more diversity, so we have other languages that are spoken by a large number of students. We're not where we want to be, and I know the superintendent would never say we're where we want to be, but we're moving in the right direction at the same time that we're working with increasing numbers of students in poverty, increasing diversity in language coming into our district. We're still moving in the right direction. So that's the good news story to share with your neighbors, your family members, and your colleagues at your schools regarding our work in our district with our ESL migrant and refugee students. So I want to thank
Of South Omaha, it's the history of, we can say it's the history of the United States. It's the history of immigration. It's a matter of who came in first, because the continents, they were isolated after the Bering Straits, they broke in, so everybody came in at a different time. So you can say literally that everybody who lives in the U.S., their ancestors came from somewhere else. Nobody originated here. Everybody came in here. The only difference here from one group to the next is when they came in. So everybody is an immigrant, all right? South Omaha was I remember, it has a very distinct ethnic enclave. You had Poles, you had Hungarians, or Bohemians, you have Czechs, you have Germans, you have Greek, you have everybody and its brother living in South Omaha. Then little by little, it becomes it obtains this distinct enclave. That was the Poles and then the Bohemians. And then little by little, then you have the Lithuanians. And then little by little, you're going to become the enclave of the Mexicans. And little enough, then the Mexicans, they're going to have all Central Americans coming, Salvadorians and Guatemalans. So literally today, South Omaha is a Latino enclave. You have Guatemalans, Salvadorians, Hondurans, and all kinds of Latinos. But this is the work of the Mexican communities. Same way the church and everything else in South Omaha mostly is the work of Mexicans, all right?
Use the time to drive over by the livestock exchange building. If you haven't, knowing it, we're going to drive by. We'll be hearing a lot about it today.
Some of you have lived in South Omaha, or you've worked in South Omaha, or you've come through. I would like you to talk a little bit about some of the myths that you've had about South Omaha.
And so the 8th graders, when they got there, they were going through and they were like, how do you like it? To my daughter, my daughter's like, I love the school, I love the atmosphere. There's not a lot, it's so diverse. And the kids were like, well, how do you handle it when everybody speaks Spanish and you don't know what they're saying? And my daughter's like, yeah, no, that is just a myth. It's not necessarily that everybody speaks Spanish, and most kids, if they do speak Spanish, also know English.
My family is from Mount Valley, Mississippi, and they moved to Omaha in the 1960s for the packing house. And a lot of African Americans came from the South to work at the packing houses. But make a long story short, they brought the Hispanic people in to break the unions, and the unions were broken by introducing lower wages to the Hispanic people.
So this is, I'm like home. I grew up on 26th and Y Street. I was there until I was 5 years old, but my strongest memory of childhood would have been living 2 blocks south of the packing plant and the stockyards. Every morning I could smell the stench of the cow. Before I went to bed and all through the day, I could hear the cows mooing. I was terribly frightened by that. And so this is my stomping ground, and I love South Omaha.
because most of you are OPS teachers, so you know that in Omaha we have these code words. And we have North Omaha, which is a code word for Black Omaha. We have South Omaha, which is a code word for Latino Omaha, and West Omaha, which is a code word for White Omaha. And so sometimes people that are from one of those other places, they're afraid because of things they see in the media and because of things they heard. And then they come here on a Saturday morning, and they come to El Museo Latino, and maybe they go to Jacobo's and get some tamales, or maybe they go to 24th Street and eat some food at one of the restaurants, and all of a sudden they're like, you know what? It's not that scary down there, right? And those are the terms they use down there. But they get to see this is Omaha, and it's Omaha just like every other part of Omaha, with some slight differences.
In 2005, the Reader with El Perico, we did some research on immigration because there was a lot of really bad information out there. And in that time now, 10 years, I can't say the information's gotten necessarily that much better. And so, you know, I think it's, if there's one of the things that we like to do is, of course, finding the story that the mainstream media misses, but also trying to get all of Omaha to think of all of Omaha, and not just north and south and west. And, you know, the more that we can be a part of breaking down those boundaries, the better we're going to be as a community.
Within this 2-block area, there are 32 buildings that are on the historic register. One of them is this building behind us, or in front of us if you turn around, the U.S. Post Office. It dates to 1898, and it was constructed by the U.S. government as a federal office and post office for South Omaha. So it's always been a post office.
Yes. My mom makes me a call. Are you guys? This is another one I just point out because it's one of our hardware stores. Yeah. It's the Carpenter Building. It's 1907. Yeah. And this has been here as long as I can remember, P&M Hardware. And they did have a fire at one point, and they've rebuilt it. And still go in there and it feels like a little town, welcoming, kind of really fun. But anyway, we have this little hardware store, family owned, Peterson and Mitchell. This is the South Omaha City Hall. It dates from 1906, and the architect was John Latier and Sons. And it's a classical revival inspired details. This is known as the Packers National Bank, dating from 1907. The Packers Bank was actually founded in 1891, and it was one of 3 major banks in the South Omaha. And then in 1985, it was registered as a national landmark, and it's now offices, attorneys.
What I was thinking of after I talked to her is that there are a lot of countries included in this term Latino, and they each have their own unique history, which is not exactly the same. They have lots of different things about them.
You know, we're all educators, but other than that, you know, we're kind of a cross section of the community, and I'm just hearing, you know, I mean, a lot of impassioned people who care very much. But I don't know how ignorant I am about what's really going on out there, and how if, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, you know, citizens have such few rights in this country, immigrants, you know, be they here legally or illegally, you know, have so few rights in this country. But how do we really start standing up for each other as human beings and not allowing the things to happen that happen? You know, I mean, social justice. I mean, how do we truly band together as social justice warriors to address these issues? Because this happens in our own community. That, like when we were walking, and you said that people would show up for probation meetings, and immigration would meet them there.
There's also this, we're kind of herded into our little groups, you know, so that we're all here because we care about, to some extent, about educational reform, making schools better. And the way the mainstream measures that is test scores. But really, educational reform, I'd suggest, is social change. It's not even about schools. It's schools within social change. So a bunch of educators come in here today, for instance, this is the beginning of that conversation, that journey, and now we're all, as a group, tuned into issues that we didn't have collectively before today.
You're from, if you ask me, I'm not going to say I'm Latino. I put it in when there's the check mark for, that's a government term, or for purposes of lumping people together. But if you ask me, I'm a Mexican American because I'm from Mexico. I'm an American citizen. If you ask somebody else from Colombia, Guatemala, El Salvador. So there are all that diversity even within Latinos, for one. You can't just assume that everyone speaks Spanish. We're always, when we talk to each other from different countries, we're always learning, because the same word might not be the same thing, same meaning, even if it's the same word in a Spanish word.